dive. Today we're jumping right into something you, our listener, actually brought up this idea of Jacaiment.
Which translates roughly to false health.
Exactly. You send over a document, Jungtu Kwan Nyamsai Lambegia KHOB PDF. Our mission today is to really unpack this concept, based on what this document argues.
We're going section by section, really getting into the details.
Right. So maybe a question for you to think about right off the bat. Have you ever stopped to consider if just feeling, well, okay, actually means you're truly healthy?
And that's precisely where this document starts. It throws that question right at you. Are you sick? Are you not sick, like 100% healthy? Or are you in this state, this month?
So false health idea.
Yeah. And the author insists that understanding this concept, this question, is really fundamental to knowing your actual health status.
And then, boom, it hits you with some numbers. Pretty startling ones, actually.
So WHO, right?
Yeah, citing the World Health Organization, it says only about 5% of people globally are, genuinely healthy.
Only 5%.
I know. And 20% are classified as sick, which leaves this huge chunk, 75%, in that Jukaiman zone.
That's the vast majority of people.
It is. And the document points out how common this term is. Like, everyone uses it, regular folks, doctors, even the WHO.
Which makes you think, maybe we all assume we know what it means, but perhaps the understanding is a bit fuzzy.
Well, the document definitely thinks so. It goes hard on criticizing this vague understanding.
It really does. It doesn't mince words, does it?
Yes, it
Saying
does.
this vagueness has, quote, killed countless people.
Strong words.
Yeah.
Because it masks real illness, apparently.
Exactly. The author seems really frustrated that people just dismiss symptoms, feeling tired, weak, headaches, dizzy spells, can't sleep.
Yeah.
And they just label it just man, like it's nothing serious.
Yeah.
The document argues this is dangerous because it stops people from looking deeper, getting a proper diagnosis.
It's like putting a label on it makes it somehow less real, less urgent.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly, the document isn't even happy with the WHO's own definition.
Oh, what's the issue there?
Well, the WHO apparently describes it as a state between health and illness, sometimes called chronic fatigue syndrome or a third state.
Okay.
But the author feels even that is just too, wishy-washy, not helpful enough, doesn't get to the core problem.
So what's the document's alternative view?
It simplifies things quite a bit. It suggests thinking about human life in just two states, health-wise. You're either in the hospital or outside the hospital.
That sounds a bit stark.
It is, but it's meant to illustrate a point, I think. Not literally moment to moment, but more about the overall trajectory. They even reference a diagram, Hein 1, suggesting we're often moving along a path that, well, eventually might lead towards needing hospital care.
Okay.
And this framing sets up a really key analogy they use to explain what they really mean by Jacaiment.
Right. Let's get into that, the coronary artery disease example.
Exactly. The document explains how, the arteries leading to your heart can get pretty significantly blocked, maybe up to 70% blocked.
70%. Wow.
Yeah, before you even start noticing those typical symptoms like chest tightness, feeling short of breath, the things that would actually send you to the doctor for a diagnosis.
So for potentially a long time, something quite serious could be developing silently.
Precisely. And the key point the document makes is that this blockage, this disease process, doesn't just appear suddenly when you get diagnosed. It's often been developing slowly over years.
Maybe even starting way back in early life.
Potentially, yes. Someone could have, say, a 40% blockage and feel completely normal most of the time. Maybe they only notice something isn't quite right during intense exercise or like major stress.
But they wouldn't necessarily think, I have heart disease.
Yeah.
They just feel okay.
Right. But the document argues, are you really healthy with a 40% blockage? That's not your optimal state.
So this is where their definition comes in.
Yes. They defined jirkan, this false health, as that whole period, from having no blockage at all, right up to that 70% point where symptoms finally break through and you get diagnosed. It's that silent progression phase.
Okay, I see. It's the hidden part of the iceberg.
You could put it that way. And because of this, the author argues Jacaiment isn't just vague, it's inaccurate. It doesn't capture the reality.
So what terms do they prefer?
They suggest calling it the early stage of illness, or perhaps the preclinical stage of illness, meaning the illness is definitely there, just not showing obvious symptoms yet.
And conversely, what we usually call being sick
is actually, in their view, the final stage of illness or the clinical stage because, let's be honest, people often wait until they absolutely can't stand the symptoms anymore before they seek help.
which often means ending up in the hospital.
Exactly. It's like cancer, right? Cancer has early stages, often less symptomatic, and later more severe stages. The document argues most diseases work this way, and hospitalization usually means you're in a later stage.
Okay, that reframing makes sense. Now, the document also talks about why this happens, linking it to the body's reserves. What does it mean by reserves?
Think of it like your body's built-in buffer or its safety margin. The document uses a couple of analogies, like having money saved in the bank for emergencies,
Right.
or a country keeping defense weapons ready even in peacetime. It's backup capacity.
And biologically.
We have lots of examples. We've got 2 kidneys, but we can live fine with just one. That's reserve capacity. 2 lungs, but at rest, we only use a tiny fraction of their total power.
Got it. Extra capacity we don't always need day to day.
Exactly. Those are our physiological reserves.
And the danger comes when these reserves get used up.
Precisely. The document gives an example. Imagine someone loses function in half of one lung. Sitting around, they might feel totally fine, but the moment they try even mild exercise,
They'll be gasping for air.
because that reserve capacity is gone, it's been compromised.
And this relates back to the false health idea because these reserves can hide problems.
Yes, that's a crucial point. Reserves can mask the early stages of disease.
Yeah.
They use another example illustrated in figures 3A, 3B, 3C, like a small spot, maybe a tumor, starting in the lung.
Mhm.
Because the lung has so much extra capacity, that small spot might cause zero symptoms initially. It grows slowly, eating into the reserve capacity, still without setting off alarms,
Fun hill.
until eventually the reserve is depleted enough that symptoms finally appear. But by then, it might be a late-stage cancer diagnosis. The disease was there all along, silently progressing, hidden by the reserves.
That's, yeah, quite a concerning thought. The very thing that lets us function well can also hide danger.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Reserves let us push ourselves like elite athletes do, but they also make early detection harder.
So building on this, the document then presents this long list.
Yeah.
30 symptoms.
From the WHO, yes. And the document suggests that if you consistently experience 6 or more of these, it might indicate you're in this Jekyll state, this preclinical phase.
It's a really extensive list. Maybe give us a flavor of the kinds of things included. Reading all 30 might be a bit much.
Sure, it's incredibly broad, covering physical, mental, and emotional stuff. Things like feeling tense or anxious often, feeling lonely or withdrawn.
Okay, mental side.
Yeah. Then physical things like heart palpitations, maybe tinnitus, or getting motion sick easily. Memory issues like forgetting names you know.
Uh-huh.
Lack of enthusiasm, low libido, not wanting to socialize, feeling pessimistic or weak. Eye strain, feeling sluggish, slow reactions, frequent headaches or dizziness.
Wow, it keeps going.
Oh, yeah. Unexplained weight loss, poor sleep, feeling sleepy even after waking up, cold hands and feet, excessive sweating, dry throat, mild fevers, night sweats, back pain.
Digestive things, too.
Definitely. Thick tongue coating, bad breath, chapped lips, poor appetite, acid reflux, bloating, constipation or loose stools, getting colds easily, cold sores, stuffy nose, sore throat,
And breathing.
shortness of breath, chest tightness, feeling dizzy after standing up, weak bones, trouble concentrating. Even things like being easily agitated or worrying too much.
That covers almost everything. It really drives home how subtle or varied these early signs could be.
It really does. These aren't necessarily dramatic knock-you-down symptoms, but maybe persistent little things we tend to ignore.
Which leads perfectly into the second section, doesn't it? Baulore bankonde tu kuste. How long since your last overhaul? Seems like a call to action.
Absolutely. The argument flows naturally. Because these early stages are often silent or have subtle signs we dismiss, just waiting to feel sick isn't good enough. We need proactive checks.
This die too, or body overhaul.
Right. The document expresses real concern that many people have never had a proper, thorough check like this, calling it dangerous, basically.
And they use that car analogy again here, right?
Yes, comparing it to how we look after an old car. We know we need to clean it, do regular maintenance, maybe even a full engine overhaul to keep it running well and extend its life.
Makes sense.
But then we often neglect our own bodies, which are far more complex machines.
We wait for the breakdown signal.
Often, yes. The document says many people only seek this overhaul when things go really wrong, leading to major interventions in a hospital setting. But here's the crucial bit.
What makes their idea of an overhaul different?
It's not just your standard annual checkup with some blood tests and maybe an x-ray. They're critical of just relying on machine results and checking if you're within the normal range.
Why? What's wrong with that?
The document argues machines have limits. They can give you numbers, but they can't always see the full picture or the subtle connections.
Will they give an example?
A powerful one, actually. They say someone can have quite significant liver damage, even cirrhosis, but their liver enzyme tests might still come back looking normal.
Really? That's worrying.
It is, and it highlights their main point. You need expert human analysis. A good doctor, a specialist.
Someone who can interpret the data deeply.
Exactly. Someone who combines test results with their clinical experience, considers your lifestyle, asks about those common symptoms: sleep, appetite, digestion, energy levels, weight changes.
All the things the machine doesn't know.
Right. To build a truly comprehensive picture of your health now, and importantly, to predict potential future risks, it's holistic.
It's about connecting the dots. Okay, but then the document raises another issue. People get checkups, find problems, and then do nothing.
Yeah, that's a huge point they make. It's like getting the information but ignoring it.
Do they have an example for this too?
A very relatable one. Someone finds out they have high blood lipids, high cholesterol, momo cow,
Okay.
but because it doesn't immediately hurt or affect their daily life, they just kind of shrug it off. The document even says some people might almost boast about it to friends.
Oh, dear.
But the document warns, look, high lipids aren't trivial. They're the starting point for potentially very serious things down the road, like hardening of heart valves or even strokes.
So the message is clear. Finding a problem is only step one.
Absolutely. Any issue found during a checkup needs action, promptly. Otherwise, what was the point of the checkup?
It's just wasted effort and money.
Worse than that, neglecting it can actually make things progress faster. They use that analogy of a slightly bruised apple leaf and it rots much quicker.
Okay, that's a stark warning. Don't ignore the warning signs, even if they seem small.
Exactly. Which brings us nicely to the final section. Tji ne kongre komant 100% home. Is anyone really 100% healthy in this world?
Right, they circle back to those WHO stats. 5% healthy, 20% sick, 75% Jakoimen.
But now, filtering it through their argument that Jakoimen is really just early-stage illness.
So if you redefine it that way,
Then the numbers look very different. The document suggests maybe it's more like 95% of people are actually ill to some degree, and only 5% are truly optimally healthy.
that's a radically different perspective, even if someone feels healthy day to day.
Right. And that leads to the core question of this section. In today's world, is it even possible for anyone to be 100% healthy?
And the document's answer is,
A pretty firm no.
why not?
Primarily because of environmental factors. They point to air pollution, contaminants in water, toxins in the food chain.
Stuff we're exposed to constantly.
Exactly. The argument is that with every breath, every drink, every meal, our bodies are taking some level of hit, some damage from these toxins.
They even mention toxins in the air getting through our skin.
Affecting internal organs over time.
Yeah.
So the logic follows. If we're under this constant assault from various toxins, how can we possibly maintain a state of perfect 100% health?
It seems unlikely when you put it that way.
They use another analogy. Think of a building. If bricks are constantly being subtly removed or damaged by external forces,
Even if it doesn't fall down immediately.
it's no longer complete, it's compromised. That's how they see our bodies in the modern environment.
And they also loop back to the limits of medical tests here.
Yes, questioning if even our best technology can truly detect everything. Can it pick up every subtle imbalance or early damage?
Bringing up that liver cirrhosis example again.
Right. People having serious liver disease but showing normal tests until the very end. It underscores the idea that things can be hidden, even from our best diagnostic tools.
So what's the final conclusion of this section?
It's quite a sobering thought. They basically say health is relative, but being unhealthy is absolute. In today's world, nobody is 100% healthy.
Nobody.
According to this document, yes. We're all essentially on a path towards the hospital, just at different distances from the door.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and wrap up the key takeaways from this deep dive into the document.
Well, first, there's this strong critique of jiakham, or false health. It's not seen as some neutral middle ground, but really as the early hidden stage of disease.
Hidden because of our body's reserve.
Exactly, which leads to the second point. The need for really comprehensive, proactive body overhauls, not just standard checkups.
And emphasizing expert analysis over just relying on machine results?
Right. Looking beyond the normal ranges. And the third big takeaway is that rather stark conclusion.
That may be true. 100% health is impossible in our modern environment due to constant toxin exposure.
Making health relative and suggesting we're all on a spectrum heading towards illness, just at different speeds or stages.
It's definitely a provocative perspective. That final thought, everyone's on that path, just at different points, really makes you think differently about health, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It shifts the focus from a simple healthy sick binary.
So maybe a final question for you, our listener, to mull over. Considering this viewpoint, this idea that we're all on a journey, what steps might you think about taking to better understand where you are on that path and how to manage your own health journey more effectively, wherever you might perceive yourself to be right now?
Food for thought, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this exploration. We'll look forward